Hey, welcome back to the garage, everyone. All right, so in today's video, we're going to be doing a mixture of Corvette stuff and Mercedes stuff. You get 2 for 1. How about that? Okay, well, this weekend I am going to install new side pipe muffler inserts, I think is the proper term. So yeah, I bought these side pipes used off Facebook Marketplace, and they're running a very quiet, very restrictive insert. I have no idea what the model is. I think these were originally hookers, but really I think they're all the same. I've already taken the screws out of the panel right here. That's really simple. And then after that, we're going to remove the bolts that holding this tube onto the car. And then we're going to remove this. And then we're going to remove the side pipe insert. And it's just going to fall right out. It's just going to be the easiest thing ever. Anyway, let's get to work. So, yeah. I've already taken the screws out. Now all I have to do is remember how this thing comes out of here. And no, I'm not concerned about scratching it. It's 48 years old, so you know, whatever. It's got scratches on it already from rocks and stuff. You know, I think I remember having to take that tire off, now that I think about it. I don't know, let me see if I can figure something out here. Alright, I got the cover moved up, sort of out of the way. And I'm just going to do it like this, because to get this cover off, I've got to take that tire off. I don't really want to do that, mostly because I'm lazy. And I'm in the house garage, so there's not a whole lot of room in here, because somebody's a pack rat. You guys knew that it was inevitable. Yeah. So I had to go ahead and remove the rear wheel so I could get that trim panel off. And I got the trim panel sitting up here. And yeah, my garage is like, you know, it's pretty messy. So I've got the little bolt removed from the junction between this pipe and the header pipe, and I've got these nuts removed. So now usually what happens is this will pivot like this, and these will pull away, because these bolts in here they're fairly flexible. It's like a T-bolt. There's a slot in here, and then there's a T up inside the frame that holds this in place. But I've got some exhaust paste goop stuff here that's holding this on. You know, it's pretty tight. I spread that out a little bit, and I put a screwdriver down in there a little bit too. I may have to use some heat. I'm not sure what's going to happen just yet. I haven't had this off of here since I installed it. The reason I haven't done this until now is because I kind of dreaded it. So there we go. I wanted to loosen that up a little bit, make sure like these things are loose enough to. There we go. Okay, now if we could get this to loosen up with some heat, we should be able to just twist that down like that. I don't really have a pair of pliers that's big enough to really grab this. So I'm kind of halfway debating on going to Lowe's and picking up that really large pair of channel locks. I may in fact do that. I don't have a pair of those, so good excuse as any to buy some new tools, I guess. Oh, I see. The bracket is underneath a little lip of steel of the body there. I forgot about that. Alright, I'm gonna have to fight that for a little bit. I'll be back. Alright, so I basically just brute forced it and and popped it past that sheet metal there. All right, we're going to go see if we can use some of this rust in here to our advantage. This piece here already kind of came up for us, and a little twisting action with the screwdriver, little tapping like that. Yeah, let's see if we're putting any marks on our pipe. I don't think so. We can always sand them out if we need to. I'm going to go around this and see if I can loosen this flange up quite a bit. And then just, you know, try to loosen as much as we can before we start really laying into it. Got our side pipe tubes in from Doug's. Says they were designed in America. And we all know where they were made. I opened the other end already, so I know what to expect. And yeah. Does that look round to you? Not to me. It has little dents here and there. It's not precisely round, so if we want this to seal up against the inside of the tubes, yeah, I got to get the little ball peen hammer out and go tap, tap, tap and make that perfectly round. And it's the same on either end. Anyway, go glass pack style, and these are much, 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 much more flowy throughy than the other reverse flow style. So these should perform a lot better. The only thing I'm disappointed in is a little bit of denting right there. And the box UPS dropped it off at on my front porch, and there you go, a big hole there, and that end was torn and all that kind of jazz. So, and the UPS truck driver was literally had the engine floored. He had the throttle to the floor in his truck, trying to get away from my house as fast as they possibly could. I don't think it was my normal driver. The normal driver that comes to my house is such a nice lady, and she would tell me, and she would apologize. And anyway, clearly I don't think it was the normal driver that day. But anyway, it's water under the bridge. All I got to do is tap it out a little bit. It did mark inlet, so that goes towards the engine. So that's pretty cool. I'm not sure why that would matter, but yeah, whatever. That's what we'll do. We'll put that towards the engine. Let me get a ball peen hammer out, and I'll straighten that out. Meanwhile, here is the tube that we were working on, that we were attempting to remove the corroded side pipe insert from. And you may notice another large box sitting over here off to the side. I decided to give up my deluded plan of removing these corroded side pipe inserts and just go ahead and buy brand new side pipe tubes. And I got two brand new ones from Doug in here. And lo and behold, they look just like, you know, the old ones, except for this one isn't rusted, and it doesn't have, and it's completely empty. And all we have to do is slide our new insert in place and mount it on the car. And I tell you what, sometimes it's just better to cut bait and walk as opposed to banging your head against the wall. I'm going to hang on to these, and I may try to get those inserts out of there at some point later on. But for now, I'm just ready to move on. So we're going to put new side pipe tubes and new glass pack inserts on our Corvette. So, yeah, let's do that next. All right, nice and round. I'll do the other end, and we'll see if we can't get it in that tube over there. So now that we've got the tips of our, or the ends rather, of our insert round, once again. Let's see how well we can do here. So one thing to note here is that the inlet side is actually larger than the outlet side. When you see the word inlet, the first thing that wants to come to your mind is, oh, here's the inlet, I'll put it in first. No, it won't go in because this is too big. That won't work. The inlet comes from the engine, so it goes in like that. Right? So let's see how well we do. I have it in my brain that really we can just kind of hold that up on end and then just let this slide down in there and it'll just stick itself in place and I won't have to do anything other than I might have to get a piece of wood and a hammer and just kind of tap that in a little bit, you know, just to make sure it seats really nicely. But other than that, I don't think there's going to be a whole lot to it. I just noticed that that's not quite as round as I think it ought to be. Little flat area here. That looks pretty good. Well, I would imagine it's a fair sight better than most other things that folks have worked on, so let's just give it a shot. Why are you working on your exhaust on your steps? Well, can you guys think of a better place? I can't. That was easy. All right, I got a 2x3 here. It goes inside the flange and rests on the center glass pack tube. So I'm going to give that a couple of little taps here. And again, I'm not pounding this hard here, folks. Yeah, that's as far as that's going to go. All right, well, here's number 2. Where's our little, there it is, the inlet tag. I had to straighten this one out also. And hopefully this should go just fine. And we're just going to let it free fall. Let it self-seat. I believe I did a better job on that one, actually, because, you know, you can always learn, you know, the second time around. There we go. If you guys know a better way to do it than that, well, let me know. Too late now, though, because she's in there. Let's go put them on the car. The new side pipe tubes did come with a hardware kit, and we might as well use it. I think the crows don't like YouTube videos. They're making noise. Let's see what all we got here. We got some new T-bolts. Be curious to see how they compare against the, I think this is a hooker kit I bought. The hooker T-bolts seem to be they're rounded but they're wider, and these are just about as basic as you can possibly get. They're welded well, but it's just a flat piece of 1/8 inch stock, and I would say that these hooker ones are better. That being said, I don't know which is better to use. These bigger ones, see, that doesn't even go into the hole. You kind of have to angle it. It's kind of a pain in the butt. But these are easy to slip in there. However, I would imagine it'd be easy to slip out too. I'm going to continue to use the ones that I had because there's nothing wrong with them. These rubber bushings that they sent are better quality, I would say. Albeit I don't really like the blue, but whatever. All right, so I got these rubber pieces here. I thought I was recording, but it wasn't. Anyway, so these rubber pieces, I'm assuming there's a metal insert washer. I'm assuming it goes towards the car. And then this guy here is on a strap, and it flaps over the bracket on the pipe. And then there's a washer that goes over the, anyway, you get it, right? Anyway, so let's get that in there first. I don't want the T-bolt falling down inside the frame rail because that's a real hassle. This little piece of rubber will hopefully keep that from happening. Let me get some exhaust goop for that. I'll be right back. All right, I got some copper, ultra copper gasket maker. And I'm just going to smear some here. See if we can keep our exhaust sealed up. Alright, so these new pipes came with a larger bolt for the clamping on there. Alright, got that started. Let's see how well we do. You mean to tell me it's just going to slip over the end without any problems at all? And I'm not going to have to cuss and rant and raise hell and all kinds of stuff like that? It's going to be a little trickier than I thought. Messing with side pipes is an epic pain in the ass. Once you get them on there, they're good, but damn. Well, he just doesn't have a very good attitude at all. Alright, so I think I'm a dummy. I'm going to put these blue things in on the pipe first and get them in place, and then try to find some kind of a way to slide this over those bolts that precariously fall into the frame, just like that. Alright, I'm going to try some duct tape here. Last time I did this, I did use some masking tape to help hold this nonsense in place. Okay, that is fast idle. I'm going to let it come up to temperature here. It's about 1400 RPM. And so yeah, I'm going to let it wait. I'm going to let it heat up a little bit. And checking for leaks, really. It's definitely louder than the other pipes. A tad bit of air coming out right here. I'm not really concerned about it. I can fill that with copper paste. It'll be fine. That's what I did to the other ones. I think it's an imperfection in this pipe. Alternator or power steering or water pump. I got a pulley that's squeaking on me. Everything seems to be working fine, but one of them's squeaking. So we'll close that hood. I don't know if you guys can hear that squeaking. some C3 Corvette guys, the younger guys, they try to make these C3s sound good by just putting different exhaust on them, but they don't do anything to the L82 or the L48 engine. They leave the engine stock. And I'm here to tell you, if you're running the stock heads on an L82 or an L48, you can do anything and everything you want to the exhaust and it will sound like dog crap no matter what you do. You've got to change the heads. This is the medium sound. Could you imagine if I put the full flow pipes on? Oh my gosh. Well, anyway, I'm gonna call that a wrap. All I've got to do now is put the covers back on above the pipes. I didn't do that because I thought, well, I might have to remove something. So yeah, I'm gonna put those covers back on and wait till the rain stops and go for a test drive. All right, we're sitting here in the garage and on fast idle. This is the next day. Took a little while to put those covers on. I had to trim the driver's side a little bit. You know, just things are in a slightly different position, and I just had to trim the bottom of it with a cutoff wheel. You can't see it, so it just doesn't matter. So I just wanted to see what it sounded like at idle here stationary. So anyway, I got to go up to O'Reilly and pick up some paint for the spare tire well on the R107. So good time for a test drive. Pulling out of my garage is like well, let's just say it's challenging. All right, let's shut the door. Speeds is very, very livable. It's not too loud at all. I was kind of worried about that. I don't want it to be too loud. You know, I'm not a kid anymore. When I was a kid, I'd be like, yeah, make it as loud as you want, but man, not anymore. Yeah, let's get the air conditioner going here. I got the air conditioner on. I'm at idle at 700 RPM, and we're going to make a turn here and just kind of easy go through the gears, see what she does. About 3,100 RPM. Now we're in fourth, doing 50 miles an hour, about 2,300 RPM, something like that, 24. Let's go to overdrive. Now we're doing about 46. RPM. Very, very little bleed. Very nice. I think out on the highway it'll be just fine in overdrive. And now for something completely different. So I have decided to go ahead and remove the gas tank. The fuel line and the brake lines, the brackets for those underneath the car, were attached to bolts which were affixed to the underside of the trunk lid here underneath the fuel tank. I could probably find a way to attach the fuel and brake lines to the bottom of the car without doing all this nonsense, but my curiosity, well, it gets the best of me on occasion. I did use a borescope and look down inside this tank, and basically it's new. I honestly believe that someone replaced this tank at one point because they were going to try to get this car going again. I have no idea when that happened, because when I bought this car, this panel had already been removed. It's sitting on top of the car right now. Clearly someone had been in here. This tank, to me, it looks brand new, really. Anyway, I want to get the tank out of here, take a look at where those fasteners for those brackets are underneath, and come up with something new and different. I'm not sure what it is. I may have to weld a bolt down through the floor of the, I'm not sure yet, so I'll have to figure something out. We're going to get this tank out of here, and that means we're removing, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 vent hoses on top, and we got 2 bolts on either side, and there's an electrical connector on the fuel sender over here on this side, and then it'll just fall right out, I guess. Hell, I don't know. I've been reading the manual, so it's not like I'm going into this completely blind, only a little. Let's go ahead and get these clamps off this vent line here. And let's see how well we're going to do here. Well, that was relatively painless. This vent hose, it's intact. It looks original to the car, and it is cracking. So I'm going to need to figure out a way to replace that. I guess it goes into this thing. Must be some sort of vent reservoir. I'm not sure what you call it. I tried to find a name for it in the book. I didn't see it yet. If you guys know what this particular piece is called, comment down below so everyone can know. But these are a little cracky. I think we'll replace that. Let's see. That one goes, oh, that one's up inside there, but I can't really get to it, so we might as well remove it from here. All right, that was easy. crunchy, crunchy, crunchy. Yeah. Come on off of there. Okay. That was relatively painless. Let's see, what is that? About 13? Let's get those bolts out next. Right, got that crack loose. What are we going to do over here? It's a little crowded over here. I think we can get down in there though. And by the way, this area down in here is fairly rusty. It's not rusted through, so we can save it. But I'm going to need to get some chemicals in here and get all this rust removed. And then we'll do the pour 15 and all that kind of nonsense. Alright, I've removed the spout from underneath that's connected to the strainer. This should come out of here. I've been fiddling with it here for the last couple of minutes. And I'm not sure, let's see, I think the electrical connection for the sender, oh, it's actually right there. I can see it. So I think the big ticket item here is getting this filler neck removed. Yeah, that's going to be a challenge. Okay, that seems to be okay. That's things are going well in my mind. And we can, this should just, oh, that was easy. Curious to know what in the world it's too late now. I should have taken that out because it kind of sticks up the spare tire cover, you know. Just quit raising hell and get the hell out of there. There we go. What is that? Oh, it's I'm scratching the, I was wondering what that noise was. Oh well. You know, when stupid people do things, stupid things happen. I guess I'll put some paint on it. It'll be all right. The main hold up here is the filler neck right here. I'll put some silicone spray around it. I didn't really do a whole lot. That's a horrible noise. I think I'll need to do some pondering. I'll be back in a minute. Alright, so I'm fighting the rubber filler neck seal, and they're like $5 a piece. So instead of fighting that idiotic battle, I am simply going to cut this one out of here to free up this filler neck, and it should slide right out afterwards. So let me butcher this real quick, and I'll be right back. All right, I got that rubber cut out of there. Let's see how well we do. Look at that. Easy peasy. That rubber, man, that is a killer thing. I tell you what, very unfriendly thing to do, but it'll get a new one. And this is old and not very pliable, and it was not letting go. So they're cheap. It'll be okay. We'll put a new one on it. Let's get this tank out of here and see what we can do about getting some new fasteners in there for our fuel line mounts. It's not too bad. Okay, this is what I was after right here. We got some tape to protect the tank, I guess. These bolts right here, I had to cut them to get the fuel lines off. But I need another bolt with a square clip on it for that hole there. And there's another one over here. Might as well replace them both while I'm at it. I'm going to need to go do a little research and see what this thing here is called and order up a couple of them. Okay, a little update here. Now, I did find the part number for this. I found it on the Niemöller website, and then I started looking around. You can get these for about $6 or €6 a piece at Niemöller. And then shipping is 17 bucks. And then when DHL, when they get close to the house, I'll get a text message that says you need to pay the import duties. And that's probably going to be 20 or 30 bucks. Some dumb number. So this little screw will cost me around about $50 for this little screw. It will be brand new, and it will be perfect, and it will be Mercedes. I can order them from inside the US, but they're $55 a piece. That's not happening. I'm not doing that. So what this thing has, it needs to have a short flat head to keep from scratching or punching a hole in the fuel tank. And it's got this little square clip on it to keep it from rotating. Only problem is it rusted up and became useless. So now what I've done, this is an M6 thread, so I took an M6 bolt, and I made a square, albeit not a great square, but square enough. With the grinder, I made a square. And then what I'm going to do after this is I'm going to grind this down a little. So I'm going to take some of the depth out of the head of this bolt to make it a little less than this. I'm going to take a flat washer and stick it on top, and I'm going to put some weld right there on the top. And this part, the square part, will hang down inside the square hole. The flat washer will sit on top of the sheet metal in the trunk. And afterwards, I'm going to find a push nut. This is what a push nut looks like. This one's actually too big for the bolt. I don't have any that'll fit an M6 bolt. So anyway, this will spring on here, and what you do is while you're underneath the car, you thread a nut here so you have something to grab a hold of. You take your pair of pliers, you pull this down, and you take this push nut and you shove it up against the bottom of the car. So now this bolt is affixed into that hole, and it's not going to go anywhere. So now you can install the nut for the fuel line bracket. Now, all of this nonsense, pulling the gas tank out and all, is for this, because this rusted up, and there's no room underneath that tank. Literally no room. There's about that much room, because the tank literally sits on the floor, and the only thing that holds this up is a gasket on the top of the fuel outlet. So anyway, I know that sounds a little nuts, but I'm not paying $55 for a screw, especially one as tiny as this. I've got to go to the big box retailer tomorrow and find a couple little parts to make my dream come true. So we'll pick back up tomorrow. Well, before we get too far into this, the continued friends of our YouTube channel here, Super Clean, has provided us some more product once again. And I've already done some vacuuming here, but I'd like to get this trunk cleaned up as best we can, because, well, hopefully we won't ever have to go back in here again, and I'd like to make sure that it is spick and span, as they say. Yeah, holy cow, there you go. I would have to say that Super Clean is probably, well, not probably, it is the most effective cleaner I've run across in my adult life. I mean, it just keeps on working. Just a little stare and compare there between that side and that side. And you can see this is nice and black once again. And you can see the overspray from the original manufacturing process there. So that's kind of interesting. Well, anyway, I'm going to clean up the rest of our trunk. And then after that, I'm going to finish manufacturing our new fastener for this hole over here. This one over here is still intact, and it is still holding a bracket on the underside of the car. I'm waiting on the push nuts to come in so I can manufacture a replacement over here. So yeah, gonna move on. We'll be back just shortly. All right, so while I was cleaning up there with the Super Clean, I started looking at this old insulation and realized, I better take a look underneath there. And I got some rust. It's not rusted through or anything, but it's surface rust. And yeah, this needs to go away. I need to pull this up, and I need to wire wheel this. Prep it like I talked about over there of that other little spot. So yeah, I guess we're doing trunk restoration now. Why not? We're not going to get too far though. We don't want to get too sidetracked. I'm not going to take this too far. I just want to get the trunk cleaned up, cleaned up pretty well while we're back here with the tank out. We might as well do something back here. So, and this is just, crap work, just cleanup work. So, not a huge deal. We're not going to get, sidetracked for weeks on this. So, all right, I'll be back. All right, there we go. Got an M6 bolt. I cut down the head to a square, and that square will go inside the hole in the body. And I've got some JB Weld here just setting up just a tiny amount to hold this washer on this head, and while I put a plug weld in the middle of it there. So I'm going to let that JB Weld set up. It'll hold that in place, and we'll weld it up. And I've got my push nuts in here. We got some M6 push nuts, and one of these will get put on from the bottom of the car. I believe, which one is it? I think it's this one right here. Yep, let's see. This is just this. I made this one earlier, but I cut the head down too thin, and I decided to start over. So this is a nice tight fit. Oh, yeah, that's going to work out really well to hold this to the car. So yeah, all right. I'm gonna let that set up and do some welding. All right, got a flat washer welded to the top of that thing, and woo, pretty hot. Get that cooled off. And I'll do it. All right, I'm gonna get that over to the wire wheel and the grinder and knock off that little dome right there, and I'll be right back. All right, that's what that looks like. Got that square. I got the head of that bolt squared off. I got that washer weld to it. And so the square of that bolt is going to take the place of the clip that originally came on this $55 screw. Let's take this over to the car and see if it fits down in there. And here we go. Should work okay. Yeah. Perfect. Now I'll raise the car, and I'll take the push nut and shove it up from the from the bottom, and I can reach up through that hole in my mind and hold this down and push the push nut up, and that will affix this to the car, and then we're done. The only thing I have to do is, before we do all that, is cut that bolt basically to the length of the other one over there. So yeah, saved ourselves a little money there, didn't we? Awesome. All right, I'm going to smear a little grease in the area just to mitigate rust. And I've cut our bolt down to an appropriate length, you can see. And we're going to get that in place. Yeah, that's going to be real nice. Now that little square portion will hang down a little far, but I don't think that's going to be, I just don't think it's going to matter all that much. Now, the tricky part in all of this is getting this push nut fitted on here. So what I'm going to have to do is use two hands. I'll hold this from up here like this with one hand, and I'll get a pair of pliers or something and press this on from the bottom. So let me take care of that next. All right, we're going to use this nut to force this push nut up against the bottom of the bolt head. Yep, there we go, we're tight. Okay. Well, it's about as wiggly as the factory one. The factory one had a simple steel clip or square steel clip that protruded downward through the square hole, and you know, it rattled a little bit as well. No big deal. Let's get the bracket up in there next. We're going to get our little bracket up in there. It'll slip over that bolt right there, and the rubber will go up in that little pocket. Okay, let's see how well we can do here. All right, it's a little loose, isn't it? What I'm going to have to do is find a piece of metal, and the reason it's a little loose is because the square part of that bolt I made is hanging down a little too far. I think the solution for that is probably cut a little shim of sheet steel and stick it in there like that and give yourself something to tighten against. So it's not a perfect solution, but I'm gonna have to work with it apparently. All right, I added some extra rubber above there to hopefully tighten this thing up. Alrighty. It's pretty tight now. Yep, pretty cool. Alright, cool. That'll hold steadfastly. I just added an extra piece of rubber from an old heater hose in there, so yeah. Not the greatest looking thing in the world, but beats paying $55 for a screw. So yeah, time to move on. Oh, and by the way, this strainer right here, I took my little borescope camera and shoved it up inside there. Looks brand spanking new. I'm not going to do anything with this tank other than reinstall it into the car. So that is a done deal. All I have to do is reinstall, connect all the vent lines up and all that kind of stuff. I think before I put the tank in, I'll finish cleaning up back here and sprucing a few things up. I haven't made up my mind what I wanted to do with this area right here just yet. That sort of falls in the category of body work for later on after all the mechanicals and drivetrain are done. So I'm on the fence as to whether or not I want to do anything here right now, or just go ahead and put the fuel tank back in and get all the little hoses hooked up and then head towards the front of the car. All right, we had a great big old whammy right here. It was, you know, shoved upward, and, you know, got after it with a little dolly body hammer and made quick business out of that. Not a huge deal. So I think right now I'm going to knock out these vent lines. Let's start taking these out. I guess I ought to figure out which one goes where, huh? Let me take a picture. There we go. I guess I'll take them off one at a time and cut new pieces. So, yeah, that sounds like a good plan. All right, so I got busy in here and I, well, did a little bit of basic cleaning here in the spare tire wheel. And earlier I knocked out a dent down there. But before I put the tank back in there, I'd kind of like to do a little bit of cleanup work in here anyway. Made up my mind about that. So I think I'm going to go ahead and de-rust the spare tire wheel and get some paint on it. All right, I got the lion's share of the rust out of there. I'm not going to worry about getting it all out of here because, well, it's a spare tire wheel, and I'm just not going to go there. It's just not worth it. So, up next, we're going to apply our favorite cleaning friend, Super Clean. This is not the exact application for Super Clean, but it does demonstrate what this is all about. This is the foaming part, or the foaming edition of Super Clean, and you see how well it adheres to the edge of the interior of this spare tire wheel. Now, if you're cleaning up your engine bay in your car, this gives you an indication as to how well it will adhere to the side of your engine block or anything else underneath the hood of your car. And so yeah, engine degreaser, Super Clean, hand in hand. So yeah, what I'm going to do is go ahead and clean up this spare tire wheel and get as much dust and dirt out of here as I can. And then after that, I'm going to apply some sort of rust converter. I thought about doing Por-15, but you know, it's just not worth it. Not for this. You know, it's a spare tire wheel. I'm just not going to go there. It's just not, you know, you get it, right? So yeah. All right, let me clean this up and we'll move on. All right, we're going to go ahead and prime the metal that I used the Eastwood metal prep on. I think that metal prep is really just phosphoric acid. It looks like when Mercedes built this car, they may have brushed on this this paint in here because it has evidence of brush marks, or maybe they just didn't care and just let it run. I don't know. After we prime this up, I'm just going to use some Rust-Oleum oil-based enamel and just kind of brush it on down in there, and it'll look fine. So yeah, I think it'll be very, very serviceable. I think I'm just going to hit the exposed metal parts with the primer. No sense in touching the black, I don't think. Not really a need, and doing a pretty job either. Well, it may not be a fancy way to paint a car, but you know, down in here, it just doesn't matter. And I'm just not going to spend, you know, the rest of my life trying to make this, you know, absolutely perfect. So let's just get her done. There you go. We'll let that dry for a little while and see if any of that primer shows through in various places, and if it does, I'll come back and touch it up a little bit. But if you look back in the earlier part of the video, I dare say you'll say that it is a vast improvement. So we'll let that dry, and we'll come back and touch it up later. And again, this is an oil-based urethane paint. This is extremely hard wearing. This is used on like iron furniture outside your house, so it will be just fine for this application. All right, it's been about an hour and a half, something like that, and I just wanted to give you a shot of what this looks like after it's had time to dry. Yeah, I would say a little bit of light there. I would say that looks factory. It looks really, really good. Holy cow. Yeah, holy cow. I just can't get over how nice that looks down in there. I guess that means we got to get a new spare tire now, but anyway, that'll be months down the road. Not going to worry about that just yet. I think what I'm going to try to do next is get the tank reinstalled, and I've installed new vent lines already, and not using the original hose type, but it's the proper size, and I'm using these cheap type of clamps right here because the original clamps are actually really flimsy. They're meant to go on that lightweight vent hose. You know what? I'm just not going to spend forever and a day trying to find the original specific vent hose. This is the stuff right here. It's got that cloth texture on it, and here's the original clamps. You know, this looks original. It's fine, but these are hard, and they crack. If you start bending them, they crack, and it's just gonna, you know, leak gasoline fumes into the trunk, and that's not good for anybody. So I'm gonna use modern hose, because this hose right here was made in '73, and they weren't putting ethanol in the gasoline then. Well, they started during the Carter administration. They started putting it in there some, but not a lot. And then it went away completely. Then they brought it back, you know, about 20 years ago, 25, something like that. But anyway, this hose right here would just break down if you put modern gasoline in it. So we're going to go with modern ethanol rated fuel line, even though this is just for vapor. But, you know, it's still going to be, you know, still going to have the ethanol and the gasoline mixture vapor going through it. All right, enough of that. Let's see if we can get this tank reinstalled. All right, so we're getting ready to put this tank in. I cleaned it up a little bit, just wiped it down, and that big old scratch I put on there, I primed that up and put some black trim paint that I had laying around on there to, you know, keep the rust away. So anyway, all right, let me manhandle this thing up in there. Okay, before I go any further, I'm going to put the car in the air and make sure the drain hole is, you know, directly over where it's supposed to be. And then we'll start reconnecting everything else. Okay, we got our fuel strainer positioned nicely. And it's a little off center, but we are not going to bolt the tank down just yet because I want to retain this flexibility right here, because we have the tank filler neck seal coming in the mail, and that will be here, I don't know, in the next day or two. Point is, it's not here. And if I bolt this tank down such that it doesn't move, and then put the cover back in there, and anyway, and then I try to put this seal on, it's just going to be a big old headache, and that's not going to happen. So when I get the seal in, we'll put that in, then I'll bolt the tank down, and I will go ahead and put the cover back on, put all the vent lines back on, and all that kind of stuff. I might have to pull this thing back out of here once again, right? And you know, I got my connector here still dangling up there. That needs to go on the sender, but everything is going to remain unconnected for now until I can get that, until I'm confident I can get that seal in without having to rip everything out of here, because I know how Mercedes is with their seals. They're tough. They're bad tough. I keep thinking back to the sliding roof in my W126. Man, oh man, that was the toughest seal installation I had ever done in my life. So anyway, once I get the seal in, I'm going to reconnect everything else here. So there you go. I think I've gone as far as I'm going to go with our trunk and our fuel system for this weekend. Well, all right, folks, I think that's a wrap for this weekend. I appreciate you guys stopping by the channel. I sort of broke it up into two different parts of this video. I did a little bit of Corvette stuff and a little bit of Mercedes stuff, so I hope you didn't mind all that. Anyway, once again, appreciate you guys stopping by the channel. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And if you'd like to be notified whenever I release a new video, don't forget to click that little bell down below. You guys have a good one, and remember to enjoy restoring your classic Mercedes.